Our next speaker is an author and she runs her own coaching company. She's inspired thousands to walk the path of healing. She's here with us tonight to share her personal journey towards self-empowerment. Please give a warm welcome to Christie Pinto.
So, lovely to see you here today. My talk is about living from the heart, heart-based living. So before I commence though, can I just get a show of hands? How many of you have heard that term already? Heart-based living. So quite a number of you, okay, but not all of you. Okay, great. So my intention today is to actually share with you what heart-based living is by giving you a few very, very real examples, because I want to inspire you to start living more from your heart. Now, I know what Prue said about the head, and it's not about, just throwing everything, caution to the wind. It is about using your head and your heart together, but the heart leads, okay? So you still do due diligence, you still use your head, but it doesn't lead, the heart does. And I'd love to inspire you to go ahead, to go out and start doing that in your own lives after the talk. Okay. So let me define, what does heart-based living mean then? It actually means living with a balance of thoughts and emotions. As I said, the head and the heart work together, but the heart leads. And why is that important? Well, I think you're pretty much all aware that we live from our head. Right? We have a lot of things we have to do these days. We've got to-do lists, and we've got to-do lists. We've got messages on our phones. We've got messages from our social media. We get messages from our apps, unless we're wise enough to turn them off. Right. Then we've got obligations in our lives. People demanding our attention. We've got expectations from others, and expectations we put on ourselves. And our mind churns endlessly. Is everyone not in that state? Right. And some people can't sleep at night. They don't know how to turn it off. Right? And even if they do sleep at night, the next day they wake up and it all starts again. Right? So at the end of the day, the only way to relax is through self-medication, large bar of chocolate, bag of chips, alcohol, recreative drugs. And at the end of the week, we end up exhausted. It affects our physical and our mental well-being, right? Okay. So my belief is that the solution is to start living more from our hearts and to use the innate wisdom that we're actually all born with, male or female. We actually come into the world with this innate wisdom, except how often do we listen to it? I mean, there's actually a phrase in our language, the heart knows. Has everyone heard that phrase? How often do you actually use it and follow it? Okay, I can see some embarrassed looks there. If you actually look around the room, you're not alone. I've had a lot of nodding heads, right? And why? It's because as a society, I'll just put this down a minute. As a society, we've actually been conditioned to use our logic. Right? We've been saying, that doesn't make sense. Yeah? That's not sensible. It's not logical. Yeah, we all know those phrases, but what we don't know is it's actually disconnecting us from ourselves and from our innate wisdom. So I'd like to share with you a couple of stories of what happens when you reconnect with that wisdom you already have. One of the stories is a client of mine down in Melbourne. So a few years ago, she realised that she's really fascinated by the whole area of sustainable transport. Unfortunately, what was happening though was that she wasn't getting to do the sort of work she loved to do, which was to run workshops to facilitate communities to come up with the right solutions for them, where minimise use of cars and actually use more public transport, walking, bikes, you name it, anything that was more sustainable than just using cars. So one day she totally shocked me by saying, Christie, I'm really scared, but I've decided to follow my heart and I'm going to set up as a consultant. I thought, great. So that was 4 years ago, and she's still actually running that consultancy very successfully. But what happened was recently, she won some work from councils in Melbourne, and that had been going quite well. but she found herself a few weeks back saying, I don't know, when I wake up in the morning, I just don't have any joy in my heart. I feel heavy. I just don't have any motivation. And I feel really tired and I'm quite emotional. Okay. Now, she is in her mid-40s, so I've actually advised her just to check that it wasn't a hormonal issue. So to actually, first of all, go to the doctor and just check that everything was working as it should do. Right? So she went to the doctor and they did blood tests, and they actually found that there was nothing wrong. Everything was a complete balance in her body. So next time I spoke with her, I said, okay, given that the results are fine physically, there is no reason you feel so tired, so what's happening with your work? She thought about it. She said, well, there's a couple of reports I've got, and I'm really struggling with them. I said, okay, what's the problem? She goes, I don't know. She said, I've been trying to figure it out. I've been trying to figure out what's wrong with these reports. And I said, okay, well, first of all, how did you end up with them? And she said, well, they pay the bills. Screw. They're easy for me. I've got the experience, and they needed help, so it ticked all the boxes. Right? Logic. One place she didn't look to also tick a box was, how do I feel about the work? So I said to her, well, why don't we ask your heart what the problem is? She said, okay, great. So I actually got her to take her thoughts and drop them down to her heart. And as she focused her attention on her heart, she asked herself the question, what would I love to do? What is it I really want here? And the heart gave her an answer. It said, the reports are boring. Don't like them. Don't do it again. I want to run workshops. I want to be with people. I want to interact with people. I don't want to be sitting typing in front of a computer. Okay. Just through that alone, she said she felt less tired. Right? Just through getting that message. So she hadn't even done anything at this point. She just simply listened to this message. She said, oh my God, she said, Christie, when I think about running these workshops, I could just feel this energy flooding through my body already. And I'm like, great. And she goes, oh no, but I still want the reports to write. What do I do? It's okay. I said, well, you know what? I said, listening to your head obviously hasn't worked. Okay, as I said, head and heart need to work together, right? I said, but only listening to your head hasn't worked. How about we go back into your heart and ask it what it wants to do about these reports? Because if I just break off the story for a second, when you follow what your heart really wants, everything comes really easily. You don't need to find motivation, it just flows. And I think some of you are nodding, you're aware of that. When you're not following what your heart wants, it's a struggle. You're actually going against a very important part of yourself. So some of you may be aware that there's something you're not wanting to do, but you're not doing it. Right? It's going to be bringing you down and make you feel terrible. This is exactly what happened to my client. So she went back into her heart, and I said to her, well, look, there's two options. You don't do the reports, and you go back and say, well, I know I agreed to do the work, but I'm afraid I just can't. And of course, it's letting down the clients then, which is not what she wanted to do. Or you say, I'll do them, and I'll be free. I can then be free and pursue what I really want to do. So she goes back into her heart and asks her heart, okay, which of these two options do you want? Not do the reports, do the reports and be free. Any guesses what the answer was? Sorry? Is option number one, so boring. No, I'm just joking. No, so yeah, you're absolutely right. You chose option number two, so do the reports. So here's the thing though, she's been struggling with these reports for 2 months to the point that she's tired, she's lost motivation, the joy's gone out of life, she's not feeling great at all. Right? Probably wondering why she's paying me so much every month, to boot. Anyway, when she actually woke up the next day, she said she sat down and within about 3 hours, she knocked out both of the reports with the greatest of ease. No struggling, no having to push herself, she just did it. And she said to me, wow, it's almost like I don't even know how I got them done, but it was so easy. Okay, so this is what happens when we put our heart in charge and ask it, what does it want? Okay. The best part of that story for me is that 2 days ago, and by the way, I do have her permission to share the story, of course. It's 2 days ago, she told me that last week, 2 councils in Melbourne have asked her to work on new projects they've got for 2016 to do with sustainable transport. And they asked her to be involved. And she put in proposals to both of them to run workshops for the community, which is exactly the sort of work she would love to do. And right now she's waiting for sign-off on those. Is that a result, or is that a result? So not only did she get over a hurdle of something that was dragging her down, she attracted what she really wanted. Right? And that's possible for all of you. Right? When you stop doing the things that you're doing just because they make logical sense, but your heart's not in it, you're stopping yourself actually receiving the stuff that would really make you come alive, that you would really enjoy. So some of you might be sitting there going, yeah, all sounds all right, a bit woo-woo out there, dunno. I can hear you. There is actually science. There's actually science to heart. Now, because of this, I'm going to... So, you're probably all aware that there's a field around our body, and an electromagnetic field. So our body generates electricity, and that creates an electromagnetic field around our body. Now, a long time ago, all that sort of stuff was a bit woo-woo, but science can now measure that field. They can actually see it, and they're aware of it. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but actually extensive research is now being done on the heart's intelligence. Can I have a show of hands? Who was aware that there's actually been quite a lot of studies to look at the heart's intelligence? Yeah? Oh yeah, so yeah, exactly, right? Because actually realising it makes a massive difference to people's lives and their well-being. Right? But for so many years it's been totally ignored. In fact, deliberately shoved to the back. So what happens is whenever we have thoughts, there's a pulse, and they impact the electromagnetic field around us. Fine. It affects our body, and it affects the people around us. The thing is, though, our heart, when we tune into it, also has that electromagnetic pulse, and it also affects the electromagnetic field. The thing is, I find fascinating, the pulse from the heart is 60 times stronger. That's 60 times stronger than the pulse from the head. Right? So this field around us, excuse me, you know, something hold that for me. This field around us expands dramatically, depending on how strongly we're tuning into our heart. Now, you don't have to believe me, you can do your own research, but the point is you know this already, and you've experienced it. Because this field around us affects our body, and therefore our mental and physical well-being, but it also impacts the people around us. So how do you know this? When you're with some people, have you noticed, before they've even said one word, you feel drained around them? Some people, so I'm laughing because I can see some people going, okay. And you actually almost feel depressed. Ever had that experience? And you can't figure out why. But yet there's other people, again, haven't said a single word, and you're around them, you just feel uplifted, energized. You go, wow, I really like being around this person. And you might have wondered why. Why do I feel like that? It's because of that field. Right? You're picking up the electromagnetic field. Now, I am a mind reader, and I can already hear some of you going, what have I been doing in my electromagnetic field? What energy am I giving out? Well, I was leaving you to figure that out. Not part of tonight. You have to figure that out. Yes, because, yes, you are impacting people without even knowing it. Right? So what could you do, and how could you positively impact people with knowing it? Right? So I'd love to share a second story with you of a client. And he really had a dream. He had a dream to go sailing. Except to make that possible, he had to get rid of a massive amount of debt he had with his business. So in the global financial crisis, his business crashed. So he said to me, well, I would love to go sailing for 2 years with my family, run the business from the boat, but this is like over there, it's a pipe dream. How am I going to get there from this huge amount of debt? And my income is just erratic. So he does independent financial planning. I know, a bit ironic, and he got the irony of that. And it also helps people with their mortgages. So I looked at what he was doing, his processes, and we managed to change some of the way he was communicating with his clients, and that was all fine, and it started to improve his finances, but it wasn't. And then one day, he was sitting there on the other end of the phone and said to me, I'm really, really annoyed. He said, there's a client and they're losing $3,000 a month through paying way too much interest on their mortgage, and there's a much better product that could save them all that money. $36,000 a year was being poured down the drain by this client. And he said, I've given them options and I've given them things. And he said, they're just not listening. He said, not only just them. I just don't know what's going on. Why are people not listening? And I said, I've given them all the benefits and everything. And I said to him, all right. I said, yeah. I said, why do you care? And he was like, what? I said, why do you care? I said, oh. I said, well, I said, I want people to sleep better at night. I want them to experience financial freedom because I know what it feels like when you don't have that. And I said to him, wow, do your clients know that? He's like, no. I said, oh, you've been communicating from here. The logic, the benefits, which are all true, the benefits. I said, but they don't know how much you care, so they're ignoring half the stuff you're saying. So, okay, he's 55, he's not a touchy-feely person, so this was a bit tricky, but I'll cut short the story, because I have him all evening. He started doing this. I actually said, every time he calls somebody, or is going to visit them, or sending an email, whatever he's doing that involves interacting with his clients, first and foremost, I want to help this person sleep better at night. I want to help them create financial freedom. And then, whatever it was. 1 year later, you know where the story's going. His finances improved, more business. 2 years later, he had more business than he could cope with, and he had to hire staff. 3 years later, which is November 2015, he bought a boat. And I'm really excited to announce, 19th of March, which is next Saturday, he's going sailing with his wife and his 2 young children, aged 5 and 7, sailing for 2 years, running his business from the boat. That's a true story, and he gave me permission to let you know that. And he said the moment it all changed is when he tuned into why he cared and moved his whole energy from there, which had held him back for 4 years before I met him, 4 years of struggle, to there. And within 3 years, he's in a position to make his dream come. So not only did he reduce his debts, he helped dozens of people on the way to financial freedom, and he's actually able to fulfill a long-held dream. So what sort of results are you going to create, I wonder, when you start moving your attention from the head down into your heart? So you're probably going, how do I do that? What do I do? Want to have a go? You'll go, ooh, what do you... No, you don't have to come on stage or anything, I promise. It's very simple. I actually had a meditation. It's too long, so for those of you who are interested in heart meditation, please come and see me and I'll arrange to send a copy to you. Right? For right now, could you please all just put down anything you have in hand? I know it's a little bit hot. Just put down anything you have in hand. Close your eyes. And please take your attention from wherever it is, from the stage, from the room, or even if your thoughts were somewhere else, wherever your attention is right now, your thoughts, please bring them right back in to your heart. Simply focusing all of your attention on your heart. Keeping your attention on your heart and just breathing into that space. And as you're sitting there breathing, I want you to ask your own heart, what is something I desire, one thing, which I'm not doing in my life? What is something I really desire, which I'm not doing in my life right now? And let the answer come to you. Let your heart answer. And it could be a long-held goal. It could be something to do with relationship, or even relationship with yourself. It could be to do with work or health. Question number 2. What has been getting in the way of you following this desire? So note it down. It could just be it's a new idea and so you don't have a big barrier. Or it could be some sort of fear or a practical issue, self-doubt. Okay. And the last question is, what is one small step you can take in the next 24 hours to move towards that desire? And make a note of it on the card. That is your first step towards living from your heart, or living, if you're already living from your heart, to living even more deeply from your heart. So what's one small step? Is it a phone call? Is it some research? Is it putting your trainers at the front so you get fitter? Is it to buy healthier food? Whatever one small step is, because the smaller the step, the easier it is to do. And make that commitment to yourself to do that in the next 24 hours. Right? Everyone promise? Pinky promise? So I don't know. I can't promise what results you'll get. I can't guarantee anything. It depends on you and how much courage you have to follow your desires, because sometimes that's what it takes, doesn't it? Sometimes it's so scary to follow what actual true desires are. And Prue rightly pointed out, you do need to do due diligence. But if your heart's saying do it, well, do what you need to make it happen. Right? Take away the risks as much as you can. Right? But do it. One thing I can guarantee, though, is when you start living from your heart, as with the example of my 2 clients, it all becomes easier. You don't need to push anymore. There's more ease, there's more flow. And I can't think of a better way of living life than that. Did I choose the word think? Thanks for listening tonight, and I wish you an amazing journey.
Beautiful. Thank you, Christie.
Thank you.